Hi, I'm Kim Kiyosaki, and I want to talk about a subject that many of you are probably pretty familiar with, debt. And more specifically, how do you get out of bad debt? Now, this subject is very near and dear to my heart because very early on in my marriage with Robert, we were in a lot of debt. Robert had debt from an old company of his. We went through a time early on in our relationship around 1985, 86, where we had no money. We had credit cards, and every time we could max out that credit card, we maxed it out, and we had lots and lots of debt. It was, I worried every night. I went to sleep worrying about it. I thought about it all the time. It was overwhelming. It was intimidating, and it's like I could never see the light at the end of the tunnel. It was this huge weight on my shoulder. And so finally one day, Robert and I decided we need to do something about this, because if we want to move forward with our financial future, if we want to move forward in investing in our business, we've got to get control of our debt, because what it was telling us is our personal financial situation, we had bad habits, and we needed to correct that. So long story short, we came across a formula that worked very, very well for us. So in our search, we came across a formula, a very, very simple formula that allowed us to step by step take it one day at a time and actually got us out of the debt that we had. Now, what was incredible about this formula is that it was not the same advice that most conventional financial planners would tell you, and I'm going to share some of that with you. But by following this formula, it allowed us to get rid of a mountain of bad debt. And I'm talking about bad debt because there is good debt and there is bad debt. But the mountains of bad debt we had were credit card debt, car loans, we took some vacations, we had department store loans. It was all consumer debt that we had to pay for every month. That's bad debt. Good debt is debt that is attached to, say, my rental properties. You know, I have mortgages on a lot of rental properties, but every month, if I do a good job, that debt puts money in my pocket. So the good debt is debt I don't pay for. The good debt is debt my investments pay for. So I'm talking about getting out of the bad debt. So step number one in this whole process is you've got to, number one, tell yourself the honest, brutal truth. And that's not the easiest thing to do. I mean, when I had to sit down and look at all those numbers, I really didn't want to admit, oh, I don't really spend that much on going out to dinner. Oh, I don't really spend that much on clothes. And it was really very confrontational to sit down there. A matter of fact, I wasn't very good at it. It's very easy to lie to yourself about where you are financially, because a lot of times we really don't want to face the truth. So many of you from our other stories may have heard of Betty the bookkeeper. I needed to bring in Betty the bookkeeper because Betty was going to hold me accountable. So I had to twice a month face those numbers straight on, and I had to look at that little bit of income and those large amount of expenses going out every single month. But if I didn't have Betty to tell me the truth and make me face those numbers, and then, of course, every once in a while we would remember another debt we had. Just when we thought we had it all written down, Robert might say, oh, you know, I really do owe this guy another, 20, whatever it was, $2,000. And so we put it in there. We wanted to get rid of all the bad debt we had. So instead of going into all the steps of this formula, because it is a little bit complicated, and it is in a product called How We Got Out of Bad Debt. It's a CD and a workbook, and it really explains step by step everything that you need to do to get rid of all your debt, including your car payments, your house loan, everything. And most people, by following this program, within 5 to 8 years, they are debt-free, and it's a very simple formula. So I'm not going to go into all the steps, but I do want to share a few things that conventional, traditional financial planners, you've heard them on TV, will tell you what to do to get out of debt. The first thing I always hear is, with all the debt, pay off the credit card with the highest interest rate. We didn't do that. Matter of fact, what we did is we made a list of all the debts that we had. It looked something like this. We made a list of all the debts we had, and then instead of paying off the one with the highest interest rate, which sounds like it makes the most sense, we paid off the debt that we could pay off the quickest. Why was that? Well, because in this is a long process, and this will take years for some of you. It took years for us. And so I want to get that first success. I want to get that first win under my belt as soon as possible and see that this formula is working. You know, if I have to wait 10 months, a year to pay off a debt because it had the highest interest rate, I'm probably going to get bored. I'm probably going to quit. So I need that success early. It's called instant gratification. It works well for me. The second myth that I hear so many financial planners tell you when it comes to debt is to pay a little bit more on every credit card, on every debt every month. I've done that. I don't know if you've done that, but if you've done that, I found out I didn't get ahead at all. Paying off a little bit just kept me paying and paying and paying. I never saw the numbers go down at all. So we didn't do that either. Instead, what we did is we took our list of debt. We paid the minimum on every single debt, credit cards, loans, whatever it is. We paid the minimum amount without going negative, because you've got to check on that. Sometimes the minimum amount actually is a negative and you're actually accruing more debt every month. But we paid the minimum amount without going negative, and then we took the one debt that we were going to concentrate on, and all we did was pay an extra $100 on top of the minimum payment. That's how we started. And then we went from there to the next one and to the next one and to the next one. But this is the beauty of this formula. You don't have to change your lifestyle. You don't have to do all the things and cut back on everything like people tell you. The only thing you have to do differently to get yourself out of debt, well, there's two things, and I'll go into the second in a minute. All you have to do is come up with an extra $100 a month. That's it. $100 a month. If you cannot find an extra $100 a month, you're surely not going to get out of debt, and you're surely never going to make it as a successful investor. $100 a month is all you need to do differently, and that's the beauty of this formula. Now, the third thing, and I hate this one, the third thing they tell you is cut up your credit cards. I love my credit cards. I don't want to cut up my credit cards. Put your credit cards in the freezer. No, I love my credit cards. I don't want to cut up my credit cards. So I don't do that. However, if you're going to keep your credit cards, there is a rule that we followed, because we did not get rid of any of our credit cards, but we did have a rule, and that is any debt we incurred that month on a credit card, we paid off that same month. And this is really important, because a very good habit you need to take on is that you cannot keep increasing the amount of debt you have. You've got your debt, you've got all your lists of debt, but if you're going to buy some things on a credit card in the month of July, you pay it off in the month of July, so you're not incurring more debt. So these are just some of the myths that the financial planners, the conventional wisdom tells you in order to get out of debt. However, when I tried doing those things, I stayed in debt. So it wasn't until I found this formula, and again, it's found in how we got out of bad debt. We go into the entire program, all the steps, and anybody can do this, and anybody can get out of debt. It's not rocket science. It's very simple. All you need is that extra $100 a month, and you can be totally out of debt. And then the beauty of it, all that money you've been spending on that debt, then you got money to invest. So it's a great program. Thank you.